All right, now we're going to talk about a philosophy, a strategy, and you can use this strategy in many different facets of martial arts training. It's easiest to think of it through the prism of self-defense or sparring. We call it the 8 directions of movement. Sometimes we even refer to it as the piñata principle. So to quickly explain the piñata principle, at a birthday party there's a piñata hanging from a tree usually. And on the one end of the piñata is a dad hanging onto the rope. And every time the birthday boy or girl comes up to swing at the piñata to break it open, the dad pulls the piñata and then the boy or girl would miss. So in my experience, round 1, birthday boy or girl is blindfolded, and then everybody in line is also blindfolded. And they walk up and they touch the piñata with the stick, and then they go to swing, dad moves the piñata and they never hit it. Round 2, they remove the blindfold, you can see it, you touch it with the stick, you go to swing and hit it, and then again dad pulls the cord, it raises or lowers, and people are only lucky if they hit it. And then finally they get to round 3 where birthday boy or girl hits the piñata without it being tugged, without it being moved, and they're finally able to hit it and crack it open and the party can begin. Well, if we take this principle that we call a piñata principle and we apply it to martial arts, it works like this. You, as the good guy, the person being attacked with a strike, you're the piñata. The attacker is trying to break you open with some sort of strike. It could be a punch or a kick or a grab or a strain, a tackle. And the problem you have is you don't know what they're going to do. You don't know if it's going to be a 3-punch combo and then a tackle. You don't know if it's going to be a kick punch. You don't know if it's going to be a single jab punch. There's a lot of volatility. The only thing you have going for you is that you know where they're aiming. You know they're aiming for you. They're not going to throw a punch over here and anticipate you leaping over here. They're always going to be aiming for where you are in space. So your big advantage is to use 8 directions of movement. Because as soon as they attempt to strike you with whatever it is, you know they're going to be putting their strike where you are. You need to already have decided where you're going to go if and when they approach. So as soon as they pull back their punch and here it comes, you choose a number. And we're going to explain the different directions and the different numbers. And you choose that direction, and as soon as they pull their punch back or their kick or they wind up for anything, you implement a direction. You physically move to a new spot. The advantage you have is you're the only one in the world that knows which direction you've chosen. They're then reacting to you instead of you trying to react to them. If you stay in one spot and you trust all your blocks, you're going to have a tough day because you're reacting to them. And the amount of time you have to choose correctly is a fraction of a second, not much time to be successful. But if you move upon their attack, now they're reacting to where you currently are and they're reacting to you. You know where you're going to be ahead of time. This makes blocking much easier. And this is the way blocking is actually designed to be in the first place. Move first, react and block second. So let me borrow Sensei Drew. We're going to face this direction. This is going to be the front direction. So if Sensei Drew approaches and he's going to play the part of the bad guy, before we even talk about 8 directions of movement, we need to make sure that we understand this distance between us. I cannot allow him to encroach too close. So if he comes in and we're standing this close, I'm going to get hit. So we call this cheating, just for our terms. If he decides to cheat and get a little close, it's unfair for me to stand here because he's gonna win. So if he encroaches and starts to cheat into this space, this gap between us, I need to know what the correct gap is and reassert it. The correct gap is, since Sensei Drew is the tallest of us, is his back leg kicking towards me should not reach, but it should be close, somewhere around here. Go ahead. Close, but he can't reach. If he's going to attack me, I have to make him go through this much distance. This gives me the chance to then implement a direction of movement and have a chance of success. If this gap starts to creep in, he starts to cheat, I can either reassert the distance or take that unfair advantage for my own and be the first one to go. Those are my two choices. I need to protect this space between us, this gap, just as I need to protect my own body. This space is as valuable as my own body. So, with that in mind, my 8 directions of movement would be these directions. Straight ahead, we call that direction number 1. Direction 2 would be directly to my left. Direction 3 would be directly behind me. Direction 4 would be directly to my right. That gives us 4 base directions. And then we can combine directions. We can take forwards and left and combine them and give myself a forward-left angle. We call this 5, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8. So now, before Sensei Drew attacks, I choose my direction. I'm the only one in the world that knows which way I'm going. So he could tackle, he could punch, he could grab, I don't know. All I know is which way I'm going to go. Go ahead. So I know I'm going to my left. Now he's punching where I was. Now as I move to my left, if he wants to follow me, I'll need to block. But I'm already choosing my direction, and then my blocks become easier to implement as I move and I see what's going on, if I need to block. Now sometimes you move and you don't need to block. Your hands are up, you're ready, and the punch is going where you were, and you don't need to even block. Your movement was enough. And other times you will need to block. So, we have 8 directions. One direction is almost always a bad choice. So if he's giving me that punch and I move forwards, I chose number 1, and he gives me that same punch and I'm walking right for it, we could call that a bad choice. But I have 7 other choices that would be good choices, right? If I chose this direction and he punched, I would be okay. If I chose that any direction would be a good choice. So that leaves us to discuss, what if we do the bad choice? What if I decide to go forwards and he's giving me a straight down the middle attack like a punch? Well, now I need to block. I have to have my hands ready to engage if I choose the bad choice. So if I move in and he punches, I need to come and do something to engage it. Now right away, things have changed to my favor if this punch is unsuccessful in striking me. Because in this case, I'm speeding things up, and I'm the one who they can then hit. The rhythm has changed, and instead of going at a pace of 5, I've sped it up, and now we're going at a pace of 20. This person's already anticipating a speed of 5. They're not thinking of going at 20. I've sped it up, and I'm the one, if I'm moving forward, who's choosing to speed it up. So if he comes forward, that same punch, and I go for it, then I immediately come in and strike, and this first strike is then to my benefit. Now let's say he's giving me a round looping punch that comes from this angle, and I chose a direction number 5. Again, I'm heading right for it. I chose what we would call the bad direction, the 1 out of 8. That was oops. So he comes in with the attack, and I come and I gotta block it, I gotta engage it, I gotta protect with my hands. And so let's say I just simply bring up my hands, and here we are. Instantly, my bad choice becomes excellent. This is a sweet spot to be because I'm on the inside position of this arm. These hands, these knees, these elbows, palm strikes, whatever, have no obstructions to their target. Now if I was on this side of his arm, I would have his arm as an obstruction to the target. But if I'm on the inside, things can fly if I'm on top of it. So, 8 directions of movement. 7 choices out of 8 usually take us to a place where we're not going to be hit. 1 choice takes us right into the heat of the technique. But if we can successfully block it and engage it and go on offense immediately, the 1 bad choice can turn out to be a great choice for us. So with a little bit of sophistication and experience and knowledge, all these directions can lead you to a good place in self-defense or in sparring, and several other areas in martial arts training as well. So hopefully with this background, this backdrop of 8 directions of movement, you'll see the utilization of these modeled through Kihons and self-defense and scripted requirements that we practice. Very rarely do you see somebody stay in one spot and receive an attack.